Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of This Podcast Takes Tokens. I'm going to start the episode off like I always do with a cold open question. This week's cold open question will be, it's on topic for what we're talking about. What was your favorite toy growing up? Your favorite toy growing up? It's a pretty simple question, but, it differs for everybody. So at the end of the episode, we'll come back and talk about that. So, until then, folks.
See you on the other side.
Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
All right, we're back. The episode's starting officially. I don't really have a big intro to go with this time because today we have a guest. We have Stephen Gardner with us. He's the curator, owner, collector, starter of the best little toy museum in Texas. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're big fans of toys and everything 80s, 90s, and in between 70s, all that. So is going to your museum for the first time myself about a month or so ago. It was a neat little find. You have a massive collection, and it was nice that you share that, and we could go through it and kind of explore it. And you have like a nice scavenger hunt that me and the family were able to go through and do. That was a lot of fun. That added a whole nother level to it for us. What inspired this? What brought this about, you starting this toy museum here in Texas?
Well, I've been collecting toys since 95. And the idea for the museum actually came from my stepfather. So he had actually, for a while there, I had been talking about wanting to build a separate home theater apart from the house. I was just going to do a different building. The second floor of my house had the home theater, had where all my toys were displayed, but I was running out of space. And so I've been talking about doing this other building, and he sends me this article, and he tells me, he's like, if you're really serious about building that home theater, instead of doing that, you should do what this guy's doing. And the article was about a gentleman up there in Indiana that has a superhero museum. And at the time, he was still running it out off of his property. He had a 2-story detached garage. Front of it looked like the Hall of Justice. And in the article, he was talking about now how he had to change locations because I'm pretty sure he said he had over 10,000 people going through his property a year.
Wow.
Checking out, his museum. And so I was curious, what he had and everything. And so I looked him up online, checked out his website, checked out some YouTube videos. And I just really felt like number of pieces wise that I was on par with, what he had. And so that's how the museum kind of started. My stepdad sends me this article, and it looked like, it was a good idea. I was fixing to retire, and so it gives me something fun to do in my retirement life.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Definitely,
that's awesome.
For sure.
So what are you retiring from, you mind me asking?
I was a military.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
Support, thank you.
Yeah. So out of this whole collection, what do you think is probably your most unusual toy that you've collected?
Most unusual toy, you sent me that question, and I kept thinking about it. And for me, it's difficult to say because I don't really find any toys really that unusual.
Oh, okay.
It's, they're all unique in their own way. I would have to say though, if I had to pick anyone off the top of my head, I had there's a toy store, local toy store, Jaden's Toys over there in Plano,
Oh yeah.
and I was over there, and he had donated this Marie Osmond that doll, and she's probably about 2.5 foot tall,
Wow.
and it was still sealed in the box and everything, but he donated it to the museum. But when I opened it, it actually had patterns in there where you could sew different dresses for Marie Osmond. I mean, and this
Wow.
figure was from probably easily back in the 70s.
Wow.
And, it was still in the box and everything. But I just thought that part was pretty hilarious. You don't really see patterns for your GI Joes or anything. So
No, that's
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
anything, so.
Yeah. So Stephen, I haven't been able to, I live up here in Missouri, haven't been able to visit your museum. So I envisioned you having of course, GI Joes and superhero stuff, but you've got some Osmond toys. So is your collections just a hodgepodge of just a ton of different things, or?
Yeah, so it's really pop culture heavily themed, So I have a lot of movie, TV shows that are represented, your different musicians, video game characters. I have over 20,000 pieces, and they represent easily close to 500 different, between a combination of your TV shows, movies, comic book character, video games, and so on.
Yeah.
You fixing to expand out that Star Wars section? Has that opened up yet, or are you still working on that?
I have 3 rows of it that are open, and I'm still working on 2 more.
Oh, okay.
So
That what was it? What's his name? The guy from the prequels they put out in the late 90s, early 2000s. The big flying guy you have there.
the Watto?
Guado,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Is that life size, or is that like a 1:2 scale or something?
That's
Because he's pretty big.
It's supposed to be life size.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say he's pretty big. Yeah, that's pretty cool one. That's so. Is there anything that you have been searching for your collection, but has eluded you all this time? Something that maybe has been hard to find.
I want to say that anything's been hard to find. You look, I look at enough places, whether it's online, your big box stores, estate sales, garage sales, flea market,
Yeah.
toy shows. I can pretty much find stuff. It's always really boils down to, is it at the price that I'm willing to pay for it?
No.
Right. Yeah.
So
where do you typically
there's
source them?
plenty of toys that have eluded me because they're outside my price range.
Yeah.
So do you just kind of set a price before you're going in with I'm sure you probably do research on all this and kind of see what the fair value is on it.
And that's it, is that a lot of times when I go out places, I've already seen these different figures and stuff, and I know what the going rate is. It's just lately, these last 4 or 5 years, everybody keeps jacking up their prices on everything and asking a ridiculous amount of money for, some. And it's like, because I collect a wide range, I don't have to bite on that piece. Yeah, it might be 2 more years before I see it again, but there's plenty of other things that I can collect, and I can get a lot more pieces for that price that they're trying to charge me over here, So
Sure.
Yeah.
And the way I try to do the museum is I want anybody that walks in is going to see at least one thing that they're going to connect to.
I can see that. Yeah.
That they grew up, in their childhood, it could be, a movie, a TV show, a toy that they played with, something. So.
You've definitely got that covered. I'd say, there's something there for everybody for sure. I think everybody in my family was geeking out about one thing or another when we were there, and I have a 15-year-old daughter, so I think that says something, that she found something there that she liked as well. So where do you generally, well, you said like estate sales and stuff like that, but what is probably one of the best places that you find to go picking or getting new toys from?
There is a toy store up there in Oklahoma. I want to say Broken. I always get it confused. Broken Arrow, Broken Bow. One of them's by Tulsa, so whichever one of those Brokens are by Tulsa. But there's a toy mall there, and they have it. A bunch of consignment booths and stuff, but easily 30, 40 different vendors that have a little booth set up there selling their toys and stuff. And every time I go there, I pack the car with toys. So.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So you sounds like you do some traveling for this. Then, like, what's the
not as much as I would like to. So, like that Oklahoma, I've been wanting to get back up there for the last year and a half, and I still haven't made it up there yet. And it's only like it's 3-4 hours away. It's not like it's that bad. It just I've been a lot of time and effort over here into the museum. Even on the days that I'm closed, I'm working on displays and stuff. So I'm always down in here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. So, what toy or prop or whatever you have in there probably gets the most attention from people, would you say?
That was another question that I kept on trying to think about, and because there's so many different variety, genres and everything, I hear something from it's something different from everyone.
Yeah.
I want to say there's really one piece. Well, I'll take it back. Lately, don't know, you got all those figures and everything that you saw on the displays, all that stuff set up. But lately, everybody that comes in, they all comment on those Fisher Price toys.
Oh, really?
Ones that you had when you were, 2-3 years old. I had the little
little people or whatever.
I had the little people, and I had a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, and he had found some old toys of his that his childhood toys up in his attic. Called me up, asked me if I'd be interested in them and stuff. So went over there and picked them up and got them on display over here. But yeah, I get comments on that all the time.
That's kind of one of those universal things that I think everybody's played with.
Is that everybody had it, whether you're a boy, girl, whatever, and that particular line. That ran for so many decades, all those kids had it, or, you kept it and you gave it then to your kids when, so yeah, that would be one that I get a lot of comments on here lately.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. So of all these, so you have obviously a lot of experience with toys. Who makes probably some of the best toys that you've seen, let's say from the past and more currently? The two-parter, if you will.
Well, from the past, when I was a kid, it was all about Star Wars, so Kenner was pretty much ruling the day back then with, all their figures that they were putting out and play sets and vehicles and whatnot. Out of all the big toy makers, though, right now, I'd say probably my favorite right now is McFarlane. And, he does really good pieces.
Very detailed.
Very detailed. I've been collecting a lot of the DC multiverse figures. And what I like about him is that he's not price gouging us, where all the other 6-inch figures that all used to be about $20, they're all $130 to $40 for them now, where, McFarlane still keeps them at $19.99 for the most part.
Yeah.
His deluxe figures might cost you $30, $35, but it's a much better figure than a Hasbro deluxe figure.
Yeah. Your basic
and
Hasbro.
You get a lot more for your money. He comes with hands. He comes with, a lot of times multiple hands, heads, accessories and stuff where, seems like all these other toy makers, what they want to do is throw in a couple of accessories and then charge you an extra $10-15 for it.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like he's gone down that route, and so sure, no problem. I'll give him my money,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that was one of the things that I went, growing up, I always were drawn to those toys that had the extra accessories with them, or like I remember, Deric and I have talked about it. I had Wolverine from the Age of Apocalypse series they did, and his hand was missing. But he had like this claw that you could stick in there. And I think it was like a
machine gun for some reason.
Yeah, there's a machine gun for some reason. But yeah, like you were talking about with the McFarlane toys, like I like how they have, the interchangeable heads and just, different things like that. It's just something that's fun.
Makes it more posable.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So you've got the Star Wars expansion you're working on. Are there any plans for other expansions in the future?
Yeah, actually, what I plan on doing, one of the benefits of having the museum, is I built it on my properties, and I have 5 acres, so I got plenty of room to expand and stuff. Plus, I'm outside the city limits, so I'm not bound by a bunch of different zonings.
Always helps.
Oh, that's nice.
So, what I would like to do is I want to build a large deck going off the back of the building, and then I'm going to get some shipping containers. And really what I'll do is I'll move most of the toys out to the containers. I'll get those 40-foot by 8-foot, put them end on end, kind of having them border the deck. And then the building itself, I'll have one room that will have all the arcades in there. I'll have the other room that will just be more kind of like a lounge area with the pool table. I'll move the shuffleboard table down here, my poker table. I'll have board games that you can, sit down, play a board game if you want. And then the 2 rooms that were off to the side from that middle room, that's what I'll have as party rooms that you can rent out for special events.
Oh, there you go. That's nice. Cool. Yeah. I can see that.
You come in, you can tour all the toys that are going to be out there in the containers. I'll have those all nicely displayed. Then you can come inside, you can play the games, you can, shoot some pool. And then also start networking with the food trucks, have them come out. And that way at the deck, I have an area where the truck can pull up. You could order from the deck, but that way the truck's also alongside the road to where, everybody driving by can see, And I'll have music outside, and I got all kinds of plans. Just sit here and think about different things that I can do.
This toy empire there.
Let me know when y'all are playing poker next time. All right. So, well, I mean, I know we're going to talk about, this was the cold open question was, what's your favorite toy growing up? So aside from that, what's probably your favorite toy in the collection? If that's separate, if that differs at all.
It always tends to be whatever display it is that I'm working on at the time. I try to set them up a lot like dioramas, maybe scenes from the shows or, and so it's whatever display that I'm working on. That's the one that has all my attention, but then I find that I quickly forget about it as I move on to the next one. And,
shiny new toy comes in.
But I have been working on my Star Wars, and I've been 3D printing a lot of the background pieces. So that way, I have, for the Death Star, I got the docking bay, I got the trash compactor, I got the control room, I got the detention block, I got the conference room, all 3D printed, so that way I can set up all the figures. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up the Star Wars displays to where each episode, will run into the next episode, and it'll all be set up by scenes, so it'll be like you're watching the movie through the toys.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's really cool.
I'm gonna have to come back when that's going. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So was there anything that was particularly hard to get in your collection, or have they all been, other than, waiting on the prices to come down or anything? I guess it's kind of a redundant one.
The USS Flag for G.I. Joe, the aircraft carrier.
Oh yeah.
And, that was one of those that, they always were really expensive, and they're, it's big and bulky if you were to try to buy it online and then have it shipped. And so it was just one of those that I didn't think that I was going to go ahead and, snag, but found it at an estate sale, got a great price on it, just kind of just lucked out, and that'll work.
I imagine they didn't make too many of those. Being that big and everything.
To date, it's still the largest playset that's been produced.
That's incredible. I never had one, but I knew somebody that had one, and it took up his whole room. It was big.
Wow. I've seen them on, when people are talking, did they maybe on like the Toys That Made Us or something? Did they have that in there? I can't remember. I've seen it somewhere.
I think they talked about it. Yeah.
But I've never seen one in person to, actually have a real
And I had it set up here at the museum. Probably took it down by maybe about 2 months before you came to visit. But it was in that center room, where the He-Man displays was and the Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
So that was all just the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and took it down. I mean, it's a nice piece. Got a lot of comments on that piece, when people would come in, hey, you got the aircraft carrier. But it was kind of, one piece versus I can put up Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain. I got a whole Jurassic Park thing going. And, but, eventually once I get the room again, then I'll go ahead and bring it out, and then I'll do a large, G.I. Joe display with, your ships, hanging from the ceiling, the boats, the bases and everything. And
I wonder if you couldn't hang it upside down over your pool table in the meantime, or it would just take up so much room.
I don't know. I got this fan that's right above my pool table that.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's one of those where it would. I mean, you'd have to super glue that thing all together, to make your pieces.
Oh yeah, because of
off
gravity
hung upside down.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. So, what would you, in your opinion, mint in box, or take something that's been taken out and played with? What looks better?
I mean, for myself, I'm going to open it. Yeah. For everybody, it's whatever they want. I kind of think that for those that collect toys but keep them in the box, I always feel like they're only doing it because later on down the road they see it as possible dollar signs down the road of, if I keep it in the box, I can cash in it, on a rainy day. And I don't plan on selling any of my toys. My toys in my collection are for, really they always were just for me. It's just, I always enjoyed just kind of setting them up and putting them on display and stuff. And so yeah, I think that they look better outside the box. You can see more of the figure and everything.
For sure.
There are some though that look really good in a package. Some of those reaction figures that they're coming out, the card is as much artwork as the figures. So some of those figures do look better left on the card, and I've left some of them on the card. But then the rest, I'm taking them out. I'm going to pose them. I'm going to, stick them with the rest of the, figures and whatever collection that I'm working on. And
that's kind of how I am with. So a couple of years ago, I really got hardcore into collecting the Funko Pop figures. And yeah, I took baseball bat displays from like Hobby Lobby or whatever, and you take the little slides out in them and then they fit just perfectly in there. But yeah, I take them out of the package, and I know a lot of people that don't, they like to, set them up just in the boxes. But yeah, like you were saying, I like that I can look at them. Like I've got a Fox Mulder one, and I can see, just the details of like his FBI badge and everything that I wouldn't be able to see if, it was in the box. So, yeah.
Had another good display for those Funko Pops.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, IKEA doesn't sell them anymore, but they used to have those DVD, CD towers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shelves.
Oh, yeah.
You can fit 10 regular size Funko Pops perfectly, the box and the figure out in front of it.
Oh.
10. Perfect.
Oh,
so I got
okay.
a long hallway up in my house that one wall of it is just nothing but Star Wars Funko Pops.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Perfect because you can fit 10 in there. I got them all numbered order. If there's one that's, missing, there's white spots because, well, I haven't found that one yet.
You haven't found it yet? Yeah.
Or they're just too expensive. Some of those Funko Pops that they did, like that holographic Darth Maul that was I think their first San Diego Comic-Con.
I think that's right. Yeah.
That one's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
If you ever see that in my collection, you're going to know that the museum's doing well.
Looking forward to it.
So am I.
So you've got everything, the main displays you've got in chronological order, starting from like your earliest, and then you wrap through most of your museum, and they continue as the decades go on, or the years rather. What inspired? Why go that route as opposed to grouping them in some other way? That's just the simplest, or?
I've been to a few other toy museums, and sometimes, when I'm walking through, I'm kind of wondering, why they chose to put certain toys displayed next to other toys and stuff. And for me, I always have to have kind of like a rhyme or reason of why something's next to something else. Doing the whole, and because I had so many different TV show, movie, kind of represented, it just for me, it kind of made sense, especially when you're dealing with trying to maximize the space that you have.
Yeah.
Is if I did put it in chronological order, well, yeah, I can have a comedy next to a horror, next to a drama, next to an action, next to whatever, because it all came out the same year, or it was the next year. And plus when you go and you look at the toys like that, so you start in the one corner, and I got figures based on characters going back to the 1920s, and if you were to start right there and just work your way down and through all the displays, it's like a history of movies and TV by toys.
Okay.
You see all the different, shows, movies that you grew up on, from when you were a kid to, you becoming a young adult to, I'm 50 now. So,
I definitely felt like I was time traveling walking through there.
So you were talking and you said like horror. So do you have like horror toys and stuff too? Is that what you were saying?
Oh yeah. They're going to have their Jason and Freddy and Chucky and, all your, standard, Ghostface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And,
that's something which I'm sure those are, centered towards adults. But one thing Deric and I have talked about before is like, I remember growing up and like when maybe Alien 3 or something was out, or Terminator 2, they had all these toy lines for these R-rated movies for kids our age. And like now we look back on it, we're like, how are they able to do that? Like there's no way like today they would be okay with that, but it's just just how it was.
I knew we were watching it, so I remember being a kid, and I wish that they would make Terminator. By the time that they made Terminator toys, I wasn't collecting toys anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of, once I got into high school, it was like, and then started up again afterwards. So.
Mm-hmm.
So what's probably well, I guess of all the toy properties or the toy lines that you've seen, maybe not have, but have seen, what's maybe one of the most unusual things you've seen them turn into a toy line?
something unusual that they turn into a toy line.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
well, I will get customers that will come through here, and as they go into you always will hear people commenting, I didn't even know that they made figures for this show, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of it was because back in the day, they didn't make, you know, figures for those older shows and stuff, but they are now. But, you know, for myself, these days, nothing really kind of surprises me that, you know, I mean, I saw where I think it's Trick or Treat Studios is they're making figures for the old movie called True Romance. I think it came out in 93, maybe 93 or 94.
Okay.
But that was always been one of my favorite movies. You know, Quentin Tarantino wrote it, and you know, and I've always been a big fan of his and stuff. And so, you know, I have all the figures for the different movies that he's put out. And so when I saw, you know, that they're putting out a whole set for the True Romance, I jumped on that pre-order, waiting for them to come in. And, the unusual ones though, I mean, I gotta say, Drew Carey. I didn't know that they made a Drew Carey.
Drew Carey,
you know.
I was surprised to see Ace Ventura and the Mask characters represented in toy form. Because I think like you said, I don't think they were made in toys in the 90s. I think that's a new thing.
The Mask, because they had that cartoon series for the Mask.
So, oh yeah, that's right. Okay,
them figures, but in late 93 is when I joined the military, and then I was shipped overseas. You know, my first duty station was Panama. I was there for 4 years, and after that I was in Italy for 5 years. And after that, I finally get stateside, but I did 3 tours back to back out there in Iraq. Wow. So, you know, my first 13 years of service, I spent 11 of it overseas. So I missed a lot of those shows during that time, but also a lot of those toy lines. That's when I started collecting, was when I was out there in Panama. So it was 95 when I started collecting, but I was only collecting Star Wars at the time. I didn't really pay attention to all the other, you know, stuff that was being put out.
So you were finding like toys in Panama for the old Star Wars toys, or like new
you
lines?
Can find them out there on the economy, but also on base. You know, we have the PX there, and so it's kind of like the military's version of a Walmart.
Yeah,
you know. There's a toy aisle there, so
yeah. So have you ever come across, like, either overseas or just, you know, when you've been going to sales and things, you ever come across any bootleg toys? What?
Oh yeah,
what's that? I'll buy them too. You know,
yeah.
You know, some of them are, you know, well made and stuff, and some of them are because maybe no other toy lines have done it yet, or the scale on them. You know, some of them are a little bit more eye popping because they're a lot larger. You know, so
sure,
you know, but then you also will find some that are just, you know, they just look cheap and made out of cheap material and stuff. So, but if it looks good and all that, sure, you know, no problem. That's kind of like, you know, I've been 3D printing not only the background pieces for the Star Wars displays, but I've been 3D printing some of the figures and.
Sure, I hadn't thought about that.
For The Last of Us, I've done the whole team for the Predator for Schwarzenegger's team.
Yes,
I did. I got Maximus from Gladiator that I printed out. I did
that's cool.
A blood sport Jean-Claude, you know, fight scene.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I'm not a
man. You're hitting me with all this stuff. That's great.
Brian's gonna run out and buy a 3D printer.
Yeah, I got 7 of them now.
Wow.
Bought one, never used it before, and then it was like, all right, well, let me go ahead and play around with it, and now I got 7.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's a toy lover's dream. I'm sure you just make anything you want.
Yeah,
you just gotta have a little know-how.
Like Mad Max. They made some Road Warrior figures back in the day. You know, it was probably about mid to late 90s when they made them, but they were supposed to do the car, and to my knowledge, they never did end up producing it. But I went ahead and 3D printed it, you know, and I got it scaled to the figures and everything. And so, you know, because the car is just as much of a character as
Oh yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to have that option of be able to print things like that it's like a Clash of the Titans back in the 80s. They only made 4 figures.
Yeah.
And so I 3D printed a Medusa to go along.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
And it's articulating, the arms move, the bow comes out of the hand, the head can move. And
wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So you got the arcades there when you first walk in. Is there an arcade that you really want but just haven't gotten yet? Something that you're looking for?
So when it comes to the arcades, anything that's old, those are the ones I know how to play. I don't know how to play all the new stuff. My boys try to get me to play like PlayStation with them. There's too many buttons and triggers. But those old arcades, on those games that I grew up on, so I have the Pac-Man here and I got, the Centipede. I'd like to get a Space Invaders. I always enjoyed it.
Oh yeah. Space Invaders is a good one.
I want to get that Dragon's Lair.
That
was one of those that it was really hard, so I didn't play it too much because I only had so many quarters. You didn't want to stand. I kept getting killed off in like 10 seconds. So,
it was expensive to play that one
exactly,
too.
You had to keep feeding the quarter.
Yeah.
So,
I never knew if I was doing anything good in that game or not. He just
so I'd like to get it just so I can mess around,
learn to play it.
How far I can actually get if now that I'm not having to feed it quarters and stuff.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Well, so we've talked about you have a fairly extensive collection. I can't remember how far back that timeline went, but what is probably the oldest toy you have there?
I got an original Howdy Doody that I found at an estate sale.
Wow.
So I would say that one's probably the oldest.
Yeah.
But then you have, like I said, a lot of it's based on characters. So you'll have characters that are older than that, going back to the 20s, so you get, but they're just newer toys that, but yeah, no, the oldest piece I would have to say is that Howdy Doody.
Okay. Well, I think that covers pretty much all the questions that I had come up with. Is Toy Story real? I mean, you got enough there that you could tell us that, right?
I don't know. Like I close up at night and when I come back the next day, there are always pieces that are not in the same spot that, a lot of them fall down overnight and stuff. And who knows what's going on.
Man, that would totally freak me out.
So the name the Best Little Toy Museum in Texas, obviously inspired by the Burt Reynolds classic Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Is that you're just a big Burt Reynolds fan? Is that where that came from?
No, because the collection's heavily movie, TV themed, and I'm in Texas, and it's a little museum, just kind of fit, So,
It did for sure.
A lot of people don't catch it, No,
yeah.
Oh, really?
Some do. They're like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And, but others goes right over their head. And
Sure.
Well, Brian, you got any questions you haven't been able to answer or ask or anything?
No, I think we're, we've just been hitting them as we've been talking, and yeah.
Well, you want to wrap us out of here, and we'll go on to our post show.
Yeah. So, next week we are going to be starting in talking about one of our favorite TV series growing up, That 70s Show, and hope to see you there for that. Until next time, remember, sharing is caring. Reviews help a lot. Please leave us a review. We would love to hear what you think about the show. Leave us comments on our YouTube channel. You can also email us at thispodcasttakestokens@gmail.com. Until next time, be kind and rewind.
See you all around.
Thanks for having me.
This Podcast Takes Tokens is a Clay Street production.
All right, so for our cold open question, I asked, what was your favorite toy growing up? Ryan, what was your favorite toy growing up?
Oh, man. I had a lot of them. But I remember, so it was there was a Fisher-Price set that they put out. It was 3 sets. They had a knight, like a castle themed thing, and they had these knights. Like I had a golden knight, a black knight, a silver knight. I can't remember I think there was another one in there. But the castle had a drawbridge and had a cannon that shot. Like a cannon at a castle, whatever. But I had that. I had a pirate ship, so I had a pirate themed one. And
these are like the little like Imaginext size guys.
Yes. Yeah. And it had the like the plank you could walk on, and sides of it opened up so you could look inside of it. And then there was a third one that was basically like a Robin Hood set. But man, I played with those for hours on end. They were so much fun. And, now, of course, I'm like, gosh, I wish I hadn't gotten rid of those. But that's the classic tale of collecting things.
Yeah.
Like when you're younger, you end up like, I'm going to sell this at a garage sale for, $1.50. And if I want to buy it back in, 30 years, then here I am paying $150 for the thing. But
they had, I think they revived that line. I think they did. Imaginext was pretty popular whenever my son Bruce was little, and he actually had the castle. It like folded. Yeah, it like folded out and it kind of like wrapped around you a little bit. There was like a little dragon that went with it, and you could he had a handle on the back. He could squeeze it and he'd flap his arms. And then there was a ogre, bunch of other stuff that went with it. Like you said, there was the cannon, but it was all interactive now. So like as the dragon flew by, it had a RF emitter on the front of it that would talk to the castle. And so then the castle would like start shouting different things. Like the knights would be shouting about like the dragon's coming, duck and get cover or whatever. And then the dragon would like roar and everything. And they had he had the pirate ship, and it had the plank like you talked about, and it had all the interactive things too. And it would interact with the dragon even, or all the other stuff. It was really cool. They really expanded on that. And that was probably one of his favorites growing up, because he had
they were great.
So many of them, and they had so many to pick from too. And then they started getting into all the superheroes and stuff like that. So he had like little, like, I don't know what, 2.5, 3 inch action figure superheroes and everything. And the great thing about them is that they all went together with one another. And so you could just like swap things around, and I could see that as being a favorite. Yeah. I don't remember having any of those growing up. So that must've been like a you toy.
Yeah. You were, I think
I'm about 6 years old or 7 years older.
So. Yeah.
Steven,
what about you?
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
I was born 73. So, I remember seeing Star Wars in the theater. Back then you didn't have, the VCRs weren't out yet. And, so big movies like that, they stayed in the theater, and
came back.
Yeah, they would stay there for a year or so, and because that was the only place that you can go see it, and we would go over and over and over. And so when it came out with the toys, it was in heaven, And then, when Empire Strikes Back comes out, it's like, oh yes, more toys, and Return of the Jedi, and and then it just happened to be that by the time Return of the Jedi, when they stopped making the Star Wars figures, was about that time when I was kind of, getting out of the toys, but I also loved, when I was a kid, all the toy guns. Go outside and play Army all the time, run around and, and that's back when the toy guns looked like guns, they tips or anything like that. And,
space guns actually shot sparks at you and everything.
Or caps and stuff.
Cap guns.
For a while there, they had, some of those, they would try to make the guns look as realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a whole arsenal. I had no idea what happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved down here
go
to
by the
Texas,
wayside.
and all that stuff was left up in Indiana with my mom and my brother and stuff. And so, yeah, no telling.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think it was it was probably one of two. I'd say my long-term love was the Lego. Had a small collection of them. They always fed my creativity, and I felt like I could do anything with them and make anything with them. And I guess that's kind of the whole object of a Lego, if you will. And I've passed that on to my son. He has far more than I think I could have ever imagined having myself. But I think the toy that I remember the fondest and wish I would like to find again, I just, like you said, Stephen, I'm not willing to pay the price for them, is the Exo Squads. Those were some of my favorites growing up. They were just so neat and interesting, just like an exo suit that your little army guy goes in, and they had like a little like memory chip thing that slid in the back. And
wait, was it like the mechs?
Yeah, mech suits.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yes. Those were pretty cool. Those are some of my favorites growing up. Each one of them kind of did a little something different. And, they fire guns, and they had a cartoon series that tied into it, but I don't remember really watching the cartoon series. I just remember thinking the toys were just so intricate and neat, and I really like the mechanics behind them and everything. So for me, that was probably my favorite, was the Exo Squads. And looking at them now and trying to find one, they're always like, I don't know, like $50 at least online, and I'm not at a position where I'm gonna drop $50 on a toy to sit on my shelf, because nobody's coming to pay to look at mine.
Every customer that comes in, I'm like, yeah, that's another toy I'm buying.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I think that satisfies our cold open question.
You talked about the Legos though, and it's funny because back when I was a kid, the Legos didn't make, they didn't have sets where it was building a Millennium Falcon, or you building the Batmobile, or, or whatever. It was like a bucket of Legos, and you just really built whatever came to your head. Yeah. And that's all, so what we would do is we would build like little, sets for our Star Wars figures, base or something. But I mean, Legos has definitely come a long, long ways, and they're very proud of their product.
Oh, yeah.
You ain't kidding. Yeah.
You got counterfeit rings and people with massive stockades of them, if you will, or just going around like stealing a bunch of them and then selling them on black markets and everything.
I just find them hard to display,
Oh, yeah.
I bought them a bunch of different sets, and I got them all put together, and I try to put them in the room, and they're just, they're so oddly sized. And so just trying to find a good space to put them all, make it look nice. I struggle with it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take some of the individual Lego pieces, maybe incorporate them into, whatever display I'm working at, so, in one display, you may have figures, you might have some, some Lego piece, you might have, a statue, you might have, like movie prop replica, stuff all in one display representing one show. So.
Well, I mean, they could definitely be mixed in like that for sure. Yeah, because you're right. The sizing doesn't really work with the full figures like you've got going on there. So I can imagine trying to incorporate a full set would be a little more.
But just even trying to display them by themselves, you had a dedicated.
They stand out.
Display case. It never fails. One's too big for the space to stick it in, or the other is so small that you have a bunch of empty space around it, and it's really hard to. I struggle with it, so I don't go the Lego route very much.
Yeah,
I'll see sets that I want once in a while. Like they've got the Star Wars sets where it's like the Mandalorian's helmet, or
the giant Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, stuff like that. And I'm like, gosh, but where am I going to put this at?
That's right.
And if I put it up on a shelf, I'm worried, like, with like a Funko Pop or something, if, the cat comes by and knocks it over, it falls on the ground, it's probably okay. But the Lego set falls, then I'm going to have to spend, 4 hours putting this thing back together.
I bought the Star Destroyer. And, it took me like half a day to put it together. And,
sure.
But this, I probably had it maybe it got 2010, 2011, around that time frame. And I've moved a couple times since then. And so this thing's moving around, little Lego pieces have fallen off here and there, but for the most part, it's still all there. And when pieces fall off, I kind of put them in a little Ziploc bag. One of these days I'll pull it all out, and I'll pull out the instruction book, see what is falling off, get it all put back. But that actually does display pretty nice. I have a home theater at the house that underneath the screen I have a little shelf system, and so it's almost as long as the screen.
Yeah,
and I got a 120-inch screen, and it just sits perfect.
It sits right
underneath it, and so.
That's nice. Well, when we wrap up these shows, we usually go over the comments that we gotten in our YouTube or wherever they come from. We got a couple comments that we're going to go through real quick. So we got comments on YouTube this last week. Actually, it all came from YouTube. I don't think anything came from anywhere else this week, but we got some comments. Ryan, I apologize. Once again, I forgot to write down the episode that the comment came from, so we're going to have to play a little catch up as we go here.
I'm looking at the notes. I think this first one was from our Raiders of the Lost Ark episode.
Yeah, that one. That's the one that I'm pretty sure on. And then actually, you know what? These all came from the Raiders episodes. Okay. You're right. Yeah. So, okay. All these comments came from our Raiders episode. Seth FG says, I saw this for the first time at a drive-in. I was born in 1975, so I was about 6. There was a first movie for kids and then a second movie for adults. So we were supposed to sleep in the folded down back of the car. I don't remember what the first movie was. I watched this movie. This was pretty scary for a 6-year-old, but one of my favorite scenes. Didn't say which one it was. So when I got home, I made myself a whip out of some scrap leather. It was the pre-VCR days for me, so this stuck with me for many years. I pretended to be Indy. I never picked apart the beginning scene. It's a movie, and it doesn't matter. It was always incredibly annoying. I was always incredibly annoyed that my whip wouldn't catch and swing on it in the same way that Indy's would. That I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. I will say that Temple of Doom was definitely my favorite. I'm assuming of the Indy movies. Realistically, Raiders is the best, but Temple of Doom is the campiest.
I'd agree with that.
And he goes on to say, bringing back Marion. No. I'm assuming that's in response to what we were saying in the episode. Indy is a ladies' man. I could have done without her ever coming back. I find her more dislikable than what's her name from Temple of Doom. Everything after the last Crusade, I could live without. So,
a nice stream of consciousness.
That was a very long stream of consciousness comment we got there from Seth FG there.
Seth, I got to disagree with you on Marion. Man, I love Marion in these movies.
I just like how he referred to what's her name? I can't remember her name. What's her name?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really remembers her name. Yeah. What was her name again in the second one?
I remember Short Round, but
Short Round. But I can't remember what's her name. What's her name? We're just
Yeah,
calling her that,
yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marion, she was great. I think of all the love interests Indy had throughout the movie, she was probably my favorite. As far as the rest of the comment, yeah, it's very stream of consciousness. Drive-in movie theaters, I remember those.
Oh, yeah.
I miss those. Those were a lot of fun. Like he said, you go in and the first movie is usually a cartoon or a kid's movie of some sort. And then your second movie is something more for the adults because the thought is that the kids have gone to sleep at this point, not realizing that as kids tend to stay up a lot later. Do you remember going to the drive-ins a lot, Ryan?
Went to one as a kid. I don't remember what we watched. There's one. It's still there. I think it's on the northeast end of Kansas City. But anyway, they still have it, but it's only open obviously seasonally.
Yeah.
We went there once, but I was too young. I can't remember exactly what movie we watched.
Yeah, I remember.
That's the only one in this area. I mean, there used to be one here in town, but it was torn down. Gosh, probably mid '80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there's one out there, and Kathy would take us. Well, she'd take me to. I don't know. I don't remember you coming a lot. I think you were a lot younger at the time because, like you said, around the early mid '90s, they kind of started shutting those down a lot more.
Yeah,
and we started going to more of the indoor theaters and stuff a lot more. But
Steven, you remember going to them?
Oh yeah. We used to go when I was a kid. And then I remember in high school, there's still drive-in theater there in South Dallas. I remember taking a date there, and the double feature was Leprechaun and Candyman.
Oh man,
and
that's a great combination.
For Temple of Doom, it's Willie.
Willie, that's right. That's why I
Okay.
can't remember her name. Yes, because it's not like that's right, Willie. I would have thought that was Short Round's name. All right. Well, moving on to Sophishire. What is that name there?
Shropshire.
Shropshire.
9282.
Thank you.
Must be a Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah. So I think he's referring to our question from that movie. What would you want from the movie? I think was the question.
What movie prop would you want? Yep.
Yeah. So he says the classic fedora.
Of course.
As a hat that I wanted. Oh, I think this is a she. That classic fedora hat is what I would want as I grew up. Gen X in the 80s, and a lot of girls' fashions incorporated the fedora inspired hats with a feminine twist. I could see that. Yeah, Molly Ringwald walked that a lot. I remember. And Demi Moore, I remember seeing behind the scenes photos or other movies, and the fedora was a fashionable item back then. I mean, it's a timeless item. You see it still being worn today, even by people. So, how about you, Stephen? If of the Indiana Jones movies, what would you probably want? What?
Let's see. I got the whip.
Oh, okay.
I got the Holy Grail. I got the cross.
Oh,
is it Cortez's cross?
Yeah,
I think that's right.
That's a good one.
I got the idol.
Mm-hmm.
I got the diary for.
That's a good one.
The Last Crusade. I got the headpiece that burns his hand on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the only one. Oh, I even got the crystal skull.
Oh, wow.
Do you really?
Wow.
The little what do they call them? The voodoo doll, the indie voodoo doll.
Yeah.
But I don't have a fedora, so
no. That's surprising.
A lot of other prop pieces for indie, but I don't have the fedora yet.
So are you secretly harboring the Ark?
I
think we just learned what phase 2 is going to be.
So I can buy a lot more toys. So.
Yeah. Let's see here. Our last one was from Marimbanator. That's we know. I know who that is, but
okay.
Anyway, he said, "Oh yeah, Last Crusade has some of the best music. It's paced really well, and the story is really interesting.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about the
Yes,
music
sir.
from it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say
Indiana
that would have
Jones.
to be one of the sequel, or like best sequels
Oh,
or any
yeah.
movie series, because
Yeah.
Temple of Doom had a different vibe to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was still good, but
Yeah.
but then when The Last Crusade came out, I mean, that was that
Yeah.
felt a lot like the original, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
being taken on quite the adventure and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think of all the sequels,
anything's
that was
better
my
with
favorite.
Sean Connery in it too. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get the sexiest man alive on the movie,
That's right.
Oh,
that's going to do it for you, right?
I always love the scene where he's shooting at the other plane. He shoots the tail,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, did they get us?" I'm sorry, they did. They did.
Yeah.
They got the tail.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, shoot.
Well, I think that wraps us out. We're done with this episode. It was Steven. It was great to have you, man. Thanks for coming on. It
Appreciate
was
y'all having me
great talk.
on it and everything, and look forward to having you back out here at the museum.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come check it out again for sure. Especially, I mean, I'm gonna have to keep up with it. I gotta be there whenever you do this expansion you're talking about with the seating and outdoor and all the.
Oh yeah, because then I'm toying around the idea of doing like memberships too, where instead of you having to pay every single time that you come in, you can do like a $100 membership, but you can come as many times as you want throughout the year.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and then. But my thing is, because I live off my retirement, I can make this affordable, and that's why that it takes $10 to get in, but you get unlimited games. You get on on the arcades, the pool table, the scavenger hunt. If I could add food, when it get BYOB, so you can even bring drinks and stuff.
There we go.
And, if I can throw as much as possible, because these days. Good grief. Everybody's just trying to price gouge and stuff like that. And, I'm trying, I got a couple kids. I know how it is, if you want to take, your kids out somewhere and, so yeah, try to make it affordable. And, but I'm looking forward to the expanding. I mean, I got some good ideas in my head and got to put it in the practice there.
That's right. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing it myself too. Well, any you want to, I guess, plug yourself or where people can find you online or your place
I got,
business?
A YouTube channel, the Best Little Toy Museum in Texas. I do little stop motion animation with the figures. When I sit around here, I look around, I get an idea in my head. I'll grab some figures off the shelf and put together a little video and. I usually try to make them kind of little mashups with, some of your old movies or music or stuff like that. And then I'm on Facebook as well. Basically, if you just look up Best Little Toy Museum in Texas on any of your social media, I got Snapchat,
You're there,
Instagram. But yeah, and then I'm located in Wiley, Texas at 3509 Aztec Trail in Wiley. And open 11 to 8, Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah. If you're in the area, come check them out. Even if you're not in the area, make the trip. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will definitely
come from Brazil. So
wow.
they were actually here visiting family, but they still
no, they came for the
museum.
museum.
They saw the museum on YouTube.
They did.
Yeah, so there's a guy that he came and shot the museum for his channel, and he has a lot of his followers. I think he works for Telemundo, but he has a YouTube channel kind of separate from that. And so a lot of his followers are all throughout Latin America and Spain and all this. And so, yeah, they saw the video then, and when they were cutting, they actually had family here in Wiley. So, yeah, when they came to visit, they were like, oh, yeah, we want to go check out the museum. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whenever I get down that way, I definitely want to come in and meet you in person and check the place out. So
yeah,
good deal.
Sure. Well, folks, until next week, like Ryan said, we're going to be doing that 70s show, rewatch on that. And until then, we'll see you all around.
Yeah. See you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.